What's up? Welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Napoleon, the new historical epic film from Ridley Scott, starring Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon Bonaparte and Vanessa Kirby as Josephine. Man, I was really excited for this because I'm just a big Ridley Scott fan. 86 years old. This guy is just built different. Ridley Scott continues to work and make movies and continues to just kick ass, and he's awesome. And I hope he continues to feel as rich and motivated to continue to work as long as he's able, because man, he's just doing the Lord's work for us. It's pretty exciting. Napoleon is the third period piece in a row from Ridley, and soon will be 3 of 4 in a row because his next film coming out about a year from now will be Gladiator 2 starring Paul Mescal. Cannot wait for that one as well. But yeah, Napoleon, big blockbuster film financed by Apple. This will eventually live on Apple TV Plus, and it's a big, long movie, 2 hours, 38 minutes, that he somehow was able to make in only a 62-day shoot. Very impressive. But Ridley has already let on to us that there will be around a 4-hour director's cut that will eventually live on Apple TV Plus. So the big, full vision of Napoleon will hopefully see the light of day. Of course, it's not really official yet. And honestly, it's really in sync with how Ridley has operated over time. Look no further than the various cuts of Blade Runner over the years. Of course, Kingdom of Heaven, a movie that via its director's cut went under a gigantic critical reevaluation and is now a much more beloved movie. Ridley is no stranger to director's cut. In fact, he's probably the most famous creator of director's cuts, honestly. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing the Napoleon director's cut one day, if it comes to light, because I very much enjoyed Napoleon. And it's funny because Napoleon, as a subject, to be filmed, it's been kind of a tough nut to crack. I think probably the most celebrated of these movies is the long silent film from, I believe it's the 20s, a long time ago. Also, infamously, Stanley Kubrick tried in vain to make a Napoleon movie, and there's a lot of information about that. To some, it's the greatest film never made from what we know about it. But Ridley, kind of by default, has now made the definitive movie about Napoleon, and I'm sure the 4-hour version of it will probably be just that. If there's one thing for me to really criticize about Napoleon, which again I loved, is that Napoleon has such a stamp on world history and such a both enigmatic but also colossal figure, I think, in the general consciousness to this day, that it's hard to portray his entire adult life in a film, even a long film. There's a lot to cover, and I think tracking the political affiliations and how quickly that changed coming out of the French Revolution, and just in general Napoleon's hold on power, but also the reasons for his various conflicts with the rest of Europe. That's probably the hardest thing to grasp about Napoleon 2023. But ultimately, I didn't really mind because it's a Ridley Scott movie, because it's starring Joaquin Phoenix. There's just a lot of stuff to latch onto with this. In a sense, it's really two movies. You have this grand war film featuring incredible spectacle, incredible scale. Ridley Scott once again proving why he's one of the great tacticians and organizers of big set pieces that we've ever seen. Whether it's the Siege of Toulon in the beginning, the Battle of Austerlitz in Austria, or the ending Battle of Waterloo. All these set pieces are absolutely gorgeous, but really mind-blowing with just how big they are. And even if they are augmented and added to with CGI, the combination of additive effects with general practical scale, it's just a really impressive filmmaking. They really kind of take your breath away, especially the Battle of Austerlitz. That's probably the highlight of the movie overall. Just the sheer scope of such a famous battle and the greatest victory of Napoleon's career. Watching the cannonballs break the ice as the Austrians retreat, it's pretty thrilling stuff. And of course, that is one half of the movie. The other half of Napoleon is this really overt kind of psychosexual, psychological romance film, I guess you could say. The relationship between Napoleon and Josephine, a relationship, from what we understand, truly of love, but also strange and a lot of stuff is played for laughs. Like Ridley really is not afraid to dress down Napoleon. Of course, there's not even any low hanging fruit about the Napoleon complex per se, but just watching him be like a kind of primal carnal animal in the bedroom with Josephine is pretty amusing, but also just kind of seeing their relationship play out in terms of as a way to see Napoleon's insecurities about his own self worth and his desire to be wanted and admired. Um, it's pretty tantalizing. From what we understand, the director's cut, the 4-hour cut, will have a lot more Josephine, and in a sense, Josephine, very much supporting character, does not have a whole lot to do at times. But I think Vanessa Kirby is able to really imbue like a kind of a presence and communicate why Josephine had a hold on Napoleon. Like that's able to come across, I think, and kind of keeps the movie flowing. And yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty rip roaring. You know, Joaquin, of course, not a stranger to playing, emperors. Look no further than, of course, his amazing role as Commodus, Oscar nominated, back in Gladiator, 23 years ago. His depiction of Napoleon, it's not super showy, it's not super overt, but it's actually quite restrained. But I think the Joaquin presence of it all, I don't know, it really quite works. Joaquin's able to play Napoleon at his most neurotic and weird as well. I mean, Joaquin's been great at that lately, of course. This year, with Beau is Afraid, of course, The Master, famously as well. Joaquin's just kind of doing a lot of Joaquin things, and it seems to all kind of culminate together. A lot's been made about the historical accuracy of the film. I don't really care too much about that. It's not positioned as a documentary, and broadly it gets most things correct. I don't think there's anything offensive about this. Yes, he didn't actually shoot at the pyramids in Egypt. Still pretty cool visual, though. Not gonna lie. So, yeah, man, I'm a Ridley fan. I'm a Joaquin fan. I was pretty much in the bag for this movie. I'm curious what it would have felt like with the original casting, where Josephine was originally supposed to be played by Jodie Comer before scheduling issues forced Comer to exit the film. Comer comes across as younger than Vanessa Kirby because she is in real life, and Vanessa Kirby is already a little bit younger than Joaquin, by a solid margin. So I think that's a historical accuracy thing that maybe would have felt a little bit out of place with the ages not quite lining up quite as well. But I don't know. I think Kirby and Joaquin did pretty great. And yeah, I think if anything, like there's a sense of inevitability watching the Waterloo sequence. Obviously, it's coming. This is his great defeat. This is the end. But I don't know. Like I was still really following it and really enjoying the time. And I think again, like the staging just really grabs you. So I'm really curious to see if the longer cut is able to really kind of contextualize and connect the dots of some of the passage of time and the political and military kind of affiliations and leanings and things like that. That's the only thing that's a bit vague if you care about that, but ultimately I think the movie's still really easy to follow. So yeah, I think for a subject that has been so hard to film over the years, Ridley, Joaquin, Kirby, Apple, they did a great job. And I really hope we do see that director's cut one day. Even if we don't, though, we'll be getting a lot of Ridley soon. I am so excited about Gladiator 2. Really cannot wait. I mean, Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, Denzel Washington, a few other returners from the first Gladiator. Really cannot wait. So we'll be talking about that in a year. But let me know, how'd you feel about Napoleon? I think right now for me, it's kind of in the back half of my top 10 with some other really well-liked movies coming out in the last month. It probably won't stick in my top 10, but definitely a movie I quite liked. And yeah, definitely a worthy film for sure. So let me know, how'd you feel about Napoleon? And for more movie reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time.